إنهم مني وأنا منهم، واجعل سلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فأقبل فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أحبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم ثالثا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فحبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي والجلال إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذنوا لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام: يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فحبت جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما جلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيه محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وخذ الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على Can everyone recite the last salawat, please? Please invite Brother Syed Imran Qaseem for the last salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على رسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد سيدنا ومولانا ومولى الكونين وجد الحسن والحسين آني أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وَلَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ أَعْدَائِهِمْ أَجْمَعِينَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي قال الله تعالى في الكتاب الكريم فقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل وتكتموا الحق وأنتم تعلمون صدق الله العلي العظيم
اللهم صل على محمد.
My dear brothers, we have been talking about the situation in history regarding the Rasul and the Ali Rasul. And we have been investigating why the status has been hidden or been twisted around to make them as one of us, as if they had no extra credibility. And history has not given them the place that they deserve. And as I mentioned in the previous evenings as well, the ayat that I'm reciting from Surah Al-Baqarah says that do not hide the truth and do not mix the truth with falsehood when you know. So it is important that we don't do that, but proper scholars have been trying and making best efforts to do that. As if they don't know the deen. And the rulers who have been insisting and enforcing this kind of an attitude have been prolific throughout history in trying to create this fitna of misinformation or lack of information. So when you have a lack of information, there's a void, then people try to fulfill it with whatever they can get, whatever information they have. Yes, please.
How exactly can they falsify the information?
Well, they have been doing that. They write things which are not true. And they have to write it because that is what the establishment wants. And if you don't do that, then you get killed. Before I start the main body of the lecture, I'll give you the example because you raised the question right at the beginning of the Majlis. Now, there was a scholar by the name of Imam al-Nasai. Have you heard of the name? Anybody? Imam al-Nasai, the grown-ups have heard. He is one of the big scholars in Ahl Sunnah. He's a muhaddith. His is one of the books which is amongst the Sihah Sitta, the six topmost books of hadith, right? When he came to Damascus at the time of Muawiyah, he was extolling the virtues of Imam Ali alayhi salam and the Bani Hashim and all that stuff. And he used to write things about Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, Muawiyah sent his courtiers, his enforcers, his henchmen, to ask him to write something about me as well. So he was asked, Moulana, you are such a big scholar, why did you write about the Amir? And he said, there is nothing that I can write about. There is nothing good that I can write about him or his family. That's why I don't. So he was hung in the town square and left for dead, and his body was hanging for some time. Like most rulers do these things. So that was the kind of torture you could expect if you went against the system. So that is why historians, without trying to, oppose the system, they did whatever they were asked to do, or they did nothing. Okay? Okay. So that is one example that I've given you. So if you have questions, we'll deal with questions at the end, inshallah. Okay. Now, yesterday I spoke about, we ended where we said that there was nobody who claimed to be the teacher of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam himself said that Rasulullah taught him 1,000, he opened 1,000 gates of knowledge to him. From each gate, he opened 1,000 gates. Okay. However, the Ummah said, but Rasulullah was illiterate. So it doesn't add up that the most learned person we consider nowadays was taught by somebody who was totally illiterate. It didn't add up. So obviously, Rasulullah has to have knowledge to teach somebody who was such a knowledgeable person. So if the student is so knowledgeable, the teacher must have been at least that much knowledgeable and a little bit more. That has to be the case. Okay. Now, leaving it there, I digress a little bit because I want to clarify something here. In Majalis, in lectures, you hear that Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he was born in the Kaaba, as soon as he saw Rasulullah, he spoke with Rasulullah, he narrated the ayats of the Quran and also of the Injil, and also of the Zabur, and all that we hear from Majlis, right? And that Imam Ali alayhi salam had ilm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I said that Imam Ali said, I didn't say that myself, but Imam Ali alayhi salam said that he was taught by Rasulullah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So what is the situation? What is the exact situation? If he had the ilm, then why was he taught? If he had the ilm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then why was he taught? And then how, if he didn't have the ilm, then how come we claim that he had the ilm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this question might arise in some people's mind because it's going on electronic media. So I have to make this clear. What is the exact situation here? Now, these 14 Masumeen that we consider, from Rasulullah to Lady Fatima Salamullah, right up to the last Imam of our time, Salawatullah. So all these people have ilm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there are three kinds of ilm or knowledge. Knowledge and ilm is interchangeable. Ilm in Arabic is knowledge in English, right? So there are three kinds of ilm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches them. Three kinds of ilm. The first one, let me give you the technical terms as well, and because it is good to know. The first kind of ilm is known as ilmul haqa'iq al-ashya, which means the knowledge of the sciences, the languages, the literature, the technologies, all that stuff. It's given to them. So they know. So they know this knowledge. And this is how they are aware of so many things that are there in this world. Okay. And in the ilm of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quran says that allamaka lam takun ta'allam. What it means is that, oh Habib, Allah is saying, oh Habib, I have told you all the things that you did not know. So Allah has given this knowledge to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and similarly to all the other 13 Masumeen. So everything that was there to be known was told to Rasulullah by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So if somebody says Rasulullah did not know or he made mistakes, that is not possible, because that contradicts what Allah is saying. I told you everything that you didn't know. I told you everything. This is not me saying to you, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-powerful Almighty, is saying to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran. It is there for all Muslims to read, the fact that, I told you everything that you did not know. So nobody can say that Rasulullah did not know, because he knew. So that's one thing. So that's the kind of ilm that the Masumeen are blessed with. The second ilm that we have about the Masumeen is the ilm of makan ma yakun. What does that mean? It is the ilm or the knowledge about yesterday, today, and tomorrow, which is also known in normal language parlance as ilmul ghaib. Yeah. So there's a big controversy that these people believe they have ilmul ghaib. That means they make them like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, we'll deal with that as well later on, inshallah. So ilmul makan ilmul makan ma yakun. What does that mean? That is something about knowing anything they want to know from the past and in the future and the current. If I go with a question to them, they will know what my intention is of asking that question. It manifests into them when they want it to manifest. It's like flipping the switch on of a TV screen or a monitor, and then the light comes on. So that manifests when they want it. Allah has given them this ability. They didn't come up with themselves, because everybody is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it's the Masumeen or normal people. But the Masumeen have been given this ability by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to know about these things, which if they want to know, they can know. Okay, so that's the second kind of ilm. The third one is Marifat Allah, the ilm of Marifat Allah, which means the ilm of understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That ilm is unlimited. Why is it unlimited? Because Allah is unlimited. You cannot pinpoint there's Allah or there's Allah. You can't say that. Allah is infinite. We cannot comprehend Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our finite brains and intellects. Okay? So this ilm is infinite, is unlimited. And this is the kind of ilm Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught Imam Ali alayhi salam, and the Imams one after the other taught each other. Because this ilm is always growing. You always need more ilm to understand and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. anything for that matter. If you know more about it, you have a closer relationship with it. Whether it's a person or whether it's this mic or phone or anything like that, or your car. So everything that you develop a closer relationship, what it means that you have got greater knowledge about that or that person, so that you know that person better and you consider it to be worth knowing more, and in order to get closer to that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ilm is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ilm about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite, is unlimited. So Rasulullah taught that ilm to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he made this dua about this aspect of the ilm, which is Rabbi zidni ilma. Ya Allah, increase me in ilm. Increase me in ilm. Because the other ilm he had, but the increase in what? What kind of ilm? The ilm of the infinite, the unlimited, which you keep increasing in. There's always endless capacity to enhance that ilm. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now you are clear on what I meant when I said that Rasulullah taught Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Imam Ali alayhi salam himself said that Rasulullah taught me 1,000 babs. He opened the gates of 1,000 gates of knowledge to me. Out of each gate, I opened 1,000 gates myself. It was his greatness, obviously, because he was a smart, sharp human being. So the Quran itself says that the ilm is there in the book. We all know that. And there's so much ilm in the book that we have to understand what kind of ilm there is. If we think that it's just another book, we think it's, whether it's chemistry, whether it's physics, whether it's biology, whether it's social studies, history, all that stuff is there in the Quran, but it's not a detailed book. You know, if you have a detail in such a small book, it is not possible. It gives us guidance, indications, and then we have hadith or the Aimathal and the Masumin explaining to us what each and every line in the Quran might mean. What are the depths of knowledge? Because it is said that they have 7 layers of depth. And some of the Masumin have been quoted as saying that 70 layers of depth in the meaning of the Quran. So all these things are there. So what does the Quran contain though? Remember one thing I mentioned already? Allah said, I taught you everything that you did not know. To Rasulullah, right? And what did Allah teach? What does the Quran contain? And the Quran says itself, La rathbin wala jawisin illa fi kitabin mubin. This means that, what it means is that the book has the knowledge and information about anything wet or dry. Anything wet or dry. It is such a comprehensive book of knowledge. That is what in the Quran, I'm quoting the Quranic verse here for you, so that you understand that I'm not making it up. So this is all contained in the book. And Allah said, I told you everything that you did not know. So Rasulullah knows all these things. How can such a person who has all this information and knowledge within him be misguided or be forgetful? Cannot be. That is what one more thing that I wanted to talk about, Rasulullah's level of knowledge and the depth of knowledge. Now the question arises now, if this was the ilm that Rasulullah had, and he spread the message for 23 years, when he passed away, did the knowledge go away with him? No. How do you know that?
Spread on.
Spread on. Who spread it? Good. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. People are very quiet. Come on. Very good. Subhanallah. 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 So, the thing is, the thing that we have to ask ourselves is that if this message, who did he leave it with? Who was the one who was given this? Because there's no point in having a knowledge which finishes after some years. That knowledge is not useful anymore. It came and it went away. Imagine if the smartphones came in 2005, whenever it was, it came in. And then in 2022, we said, okay, done, that's it, done, finished. We'll smash this technology, it doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't happen. You all will be in a mess. How am I going to play my games? How am I going to watch my YouTube? All that stuff. So the thing is, any ilm which is there has to be developed and spread. the more we spread knowledge, the more it increases and enhances. So question is, who did he leave the knowledge with? Let's ask the Quran. Where is the knowledge? Quran says, قُلْ كَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ وَمَنْ إِنْدَهُ إِلْمُ الْكِتَابِ. So it says that the witness for me is you and the one who has the knowledge of the book. The witness for Allah is the one, you and the one who has knowledge of the book. So we need to find out now who has the knowledge of the book. Because Quran speaks in this kind of language, doesn't call out names and all that. It talks in a very, very poetic, very, very magnificent manner, which we have to understand. Which is why we need a teacher. Because the Quran has been existing for 1400 years, yet the Muslims are struggling to understand it. And there are differences in understanding it all the time. That is mainly because we don't have the right teachers. We left the right teachers. That is what is the reason is. But anyway, the Quran is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the witness for me is you and the one who has the knowledge of the book. So how do we know who has the knowledge of the book? Yes, sir.
Who is this you?
Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The loud one. So we went around asking all the alims. Imagine we went around asking all the alims that who is this person who has the knowledge of the book? And each alim is saying, I will ask and find out and tell you. Only there was one who sat on the mimbar of Kufa and he said, ask me, I will tell you. Saluni, qabla an tafituni. So he was the only one who knew, and that was Imam Ali alayhi salam. So this is how we answer this question. Who has the knowledge of the book? And all the goodness in this world comes from ilm, from knowledge. And all evil is from ignorance. If you see it deeply, if you analyze it deeply, you will find it. You see the biggest ships sail on the deep seas due to ilm. You fly through the air due to ilm. You heal sick people in the hospitals due to ilm. You move ahead in life due to ilm. All these things were there, and the one which is encapsulated in a book and does not speak is called the Quran, and the one who speaks out is called Ali al-Murtada. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If you notice that dominance in the world is through knowledge. Before it was said in English, there is a proverb which says, knowledge is power. If you have the knowledge of your weaknesses, I can subdue you. Similarly, people who dominate are the ones who have the knowledge. People whose currencies are powerful, whose currencies are well, known across the world. There's a demand for that currencies. Their systems are running because they have power of knowledge. All these things are there because of knowledge. And human beings are human beings because of their knowledge. Otherwise, we would be animals. We would not know whose food not to eat. We'd be like animals and we'll snatch each other's foods or snatch each other's properties because we'll be like animals. That's what animals do. When they're hungry, they take the food wherever they can get it. They don't know who it belongs to or you have to pay money to buy that food or something like that. No, you just go and get it. And if somebody else finds, some other animal finds it, that animal goes and kills the first one. So we are all humans because of knowledge. Knowledge makes us human. Otherwise, we will be haywan or animals. So remember these things. Knowledge is something which will get you ahead in this world and in the hereafter. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
A very sad situation is the fact that, you have the spring water running in front of your house and you don't drink from it because of some reservations that you have about that spring. That's been the situation of Muslims and people in general as far as Imam Ali al-Murtada is concerned. He was talking about fertilizing or making the land of Hijaz and Iraq all fertile through a system of irrigation of the water of the Euphrates that he could create. He had plans in his mind, but the enmity of the rulers would not let him. He had plans when he used to see the river Euphrates flowing powerfully in certain areas. He said, I have the knowledge to create lighting in the entire cities with the help of this water. You were thinking, how can you do that? In this day and age, very easy. You build hydroelectricity dams. Imam Ali knew that time. You know what happens when a very knowledgeable person is in the midst of many ignorant people? He is the one who's called, he's a madman. Because it is unimaginable for the bunch of ignoramai to think that he is talking sense, because he's far ahead of them. And of course, there was enmity as well. Enmity, that we won't let him do anything. And all those things, the entire land is still not fertile, it's still a desert. The technology is being used nowadays to develop the lands over there. But again, corruption is there as well. Corruption will be there if you move away from a righteous person. If you don't have righteous leaders who teaches righteousness to everybody, to sacrifice our wants and just fulfill needs for the sake of fulfilling the needs of other people, then, you know, if you move away from these kind of values of life, then you will have corruption. We will have corruption. You know, there was a saying from the Imam that if you see somebody is hungry, remember that somebody else is eating his morsel. If you see somebody hungry, remember that somebody is eating the morsel of that hungry person. That's why he's hungry, because there's enough, not enough, more than enough food, abundant food in this world to feed each and every person 10 times over now today. And they say that there's population explosion and there's too much density of population and all that stuff. This is because people want to siphon off the resources into some hands. As you all know, 1% of the people hold 90% of the wealth of this world. And 99% of the people have to be with 10% of the resources of this world. So why is it? This is what Imam Ali said that time. That, you know, if somebody is hungry, know that somebody else is eating his morsel. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I mean, you have these scholars, you know, trying to say that, you know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was illiterate. These alims are using their ilm not to further their own understanding or improve or take a parallel view of something else that they know differently. They're using their ilm to prove that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was illiterate. What kind of alims are these? Because if I say that no, Rasulullah was very knowledgeable, he was the most knowledgeable, they will provide counter arguments to me to say that no, he was not. He was ummi. And yesterday I spoke about ummi. What ummi means from somebody who's from Ummul Qura, which is the name of Makkah. But ummi is also translated as somebody who's illiterate. So the context is such that it means that the person, the Rasul, came from amongst the mu'mineen of Ummul Qura, not from amongst the jahil, of the ignorant. But they are not agreed to that. Because when you have a certain agenda and then you want to prove it, that's a different thing. When you have a knowledge and then you want to spread it, that's totally different to that. If I want to prove my own understanding, come what may, whatever argument you give me, you can't argue with me. You say that he's just like, you know, he's fixed ideas, doesn't want to listen to me. Okay, we might not agree, at least listen to what I have to say. Think about it. And if you don't agree with me logically, then I understand. But if I'm giving logical arguments and you're still saying, no, I won't believe it because my Moulana said this, this is written in this book by this famous Moulana and all that. Are you a follower of a Moulana or are you the Ummah of Rasulullah? We have to be very clear about that. The Ummah of Rasulullah has to respect Rasulullah as a very knowledgeable person. There is no way out from that. You can't have an illiterate, ignorant person teaching people the deen. Anything, if in your class, a teacher came, started teaching you English, has no clue about English at all, you'd say, I'm not going to learn anything from this person. What a waste of time that is. Just a simple example. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that was one more aspect of the knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what Quran talks about, what kind of knowledge is in the Quran, and what Allah gave the knowledge to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second part that I want to talk about today is regarding the isma of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Have you heard of the term isma? You've heard Masoom? Masoom comes from isma. Masoom is a person who has isma. How do you translate isma in English? Isma is translated as being error-free, of free from mistakes, free from sins. The one word used in English is to say infallible. Have you used the term infallible? Yeah, it's a very common word. But I'm trying to just water it down, the term infallible, because they say to me, only Allah is infallible. What are you talking about? Okay, fine. Allah is definitely infallible. But maybe these people are error-free. I just watered down that word to make them, it's palatable to them. They're okay, they're error-free, they're free from mistakes. Now, they do not believe in the isma of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As a large majority of Muslims says, no, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made mistakes. He actually was indulging in minor sins as well. A'udhu billah. How can you talk about that? A representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is there to teach a pure book, has to be pure. Okay, like I gave an example of your teacher in English. Let me say something. Ask you a question. All of you answer one word. Did Rasulullah come to teach or distribute the Quran? Teach. So, like I said before, if I am distributing the Quran, I don't need to know that book. You say, Moulana, can you distribute this 10 copies to your masjid in Slough? I said, okay, no problem. I don't know what it says. I've given it to them. They're there. They're all finished. All over there. So trustworthily, I just distributed the Quran in my center in Islam. That's done. But if I go to a college to say that, I'm going to apply for a job to teach the Islamic sciences, then I better know the Islamic sciences before I start teaching it. Right? Makes sense to you or not? Definitely, right? So I'm saying definitely. So if I have to know the sciences that I'm teaching, then of course Rasulullah had to know the Quran before he started teaching people. So this gentleman who cannot be illiterate when he's teaching something to somebody. That's one thing. Again, try to reinforce that idea that a person cannot be illiterate when he's teaching the same subject. Now, regarding Isma, the claim that, Rasulullah was just like, us and, he made mistakes, he had errors in his life, but he never made any errors in, disseminating the Quran, but he made errors in life. He made different judgments, difficult judgments, and he had errors, he had problems with his wife and all that stuff. And, in dealings, he made mistakes on things. Just like normal people make this stuff. Should I buy this shirt or that shirt? I say, okay, buy this, I'll buy this one. And then I go home and say, oh my God, one wash, the color has come off. So we can make these errors, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was above these errors. Somebody, like I mentioned, who has the knowledge that has all been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make such kind of errors. Now, Isma, why are we so big on this Isma thing? Why are we saying they are Masumeen, they're error-free, they are mistake-free, they are sin-free? Why are we saying that? Because it makes logical sense. Our Maktab of Ahlul Bayt does not talk about anything until it makes logical sense, intellectual sense, which is why we are known as the Maktab of reasoning. And what it does is that one of our hujjat is aql. You have the hujjat Allah of the Imam, and the internal hujjat is the aql, the intellect. Aql doesn't mean your little brain that is inside the head. It's bigger than that, but it's called as the intellect. It's abstract. It's not something physical, intellect. So that is one of your hujjah. That is one of the things that has to sit well. If something in the hadith or the Quran is not sitting well with you in your intellect, there are two options only. Either it is something that is totally illogical and irrational, which cannot be the case in the Quran. And if the hadith is authentic, it still cannot be the case. So what it means is that your intellect is not developed enough to understand that. So we need to understand better. Try to make different methods of understandings to understand what the Quran and the hadith is saying. So if the intellect is not sitting well with any argument, you have to keep questioning and questioning and questioning until and unless your intellect is at rest, at peace with your understanding. Okay? Now, what does the intellect say? If I am coming with a message, I'm getting a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and my job is to get the message and teach the message to the people with me. That's what Allah has given the job to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So this is the job of Rasulullah, and the job of the Aimma Athar and the Masumeen after Rasulullah is not to bring the message, but to explain the message and establish the message amongst people so that people understand it better, so they can implement it better, right? So this is the main thing. If somebody does not have Islam, if he's not error-free, he can make a mistake just like you and me. We make mistakes every day, whether intentional or non-intentional. We make mistakes every day. If that person who's bringing this message is not error-free, there are two possibilities here. When he's bringing the message, he might make a mistake. When he's teaching the message or passing the message on, he might make a mistake there. What guarantee is there that he will not make the mistake? Because you know that he makes mistakes in general life. What guarantee is there that what ayat he taught us at that time was correct? That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant. How do we have a guarantee? We can only have a guarantee when we know that this person is error-free. He never makes mistakes. 40 years of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam life was about being truthful and trustworthy. So much so that his opponents, his enemies called him the truthful and the trustworthy. His nicknames were Al-Sadiq and Al-Amin. Sadiq means somebody who is trustworthy, truthful, and Amin is somebody who is trustworthy. So he was given these nicknames by even his opponents because he was so truthful and so trustworthy. He never made a mistake. And if he made a mistake, then show it from history. Because you've been very prolific in writing history about the mistakes of all kinds of people and the problems of all kinds of people, right? So there should be some evidence of that mistake. You just can't speak about it and let it be in the air without any evidence. So there must be some evidence, which there is. And when there is no evidence and he is known as truthful and trustworthy, then he must have the level of isma that is needed to bring the message and to spread the message. Salawatullah alayhi. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I mean, look at this. I spoke in the Majlis yesterday, right? People who are here, if I say, tell me what I spoke yesterday verbatim, not summarize it, you will struggle. You can't do it. You don't have that kind of memory to say each and every word that I spoke exactly the way I spoke yesterday and write it down the same way. If I put the entire group together who was there yesterday, they will still not be able to do it because their memory is not there. You can get a summary of the understanding of what I said yesterday. That will be perfectly fine. You understand what was said, what was spoken, and all that stuff, and you got the message from there. But you can't say word by word. Did I say evening or night? Did I say morning or day? Because you don't remember. So what you do, you've got an audio video recorder. If you have an audio video recorder, then that will record it all, whatever I said. And then if there are questions asked, some confusion on that, what did Moulana say on that day? Then you can go back to the recording and you can get it word by word. This one does not make mistakes in recording because it is fed in such a manner that it will record exactly what I say without changing anything. Okay? So this is one recorder. But if you have 5 recorders like these, then you can record them all 5 and you can go to any 5 and ask them what he said. They will say exactly the same thing what the other recorder will say. So that way, that proves what? There has to be isma. Imagine the message of 23 years of such a delicate and subtle and detailed religion. We cannot even remember one lecture. Why? How are we going to remember the entire Quran and what was there in the message? That means that person has to have special capabilities given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to narrate exactly what came on and to pass it on exactly correctly what was meant to be passed on. So that is one thing. That's the reason for the Isma. And also the Aimat Islam, their job is to explain the Quran and the religion in a manner that Allah wants it, not as how they want it. It's how Allah wants it to be explained. And that's why they need Isma as well. They need to be error-free as well, because if they are known to be making mistakes, then, I can't trust them. Because I have to go to somebody who is better than them, and then somebody who is better than them, till I reach a point where somebody who does not make mistakes at all. And that is what Isma is. That is where the Imams are, at the top of the chain of the human rationality. So which is why Isma is important not just important, it is a necessity. It is a riyad of deen, as we say. It is not just a lutf of Allah. It's not just a grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course it's a grace, but apart from being a grace and more than that, it is a necessity of deen. Because without isma, the entire religion becomes doubtful. And it is on shaky foundations. It's on shaky foundations and it can fall anytime and it will be open to criticism by anybody at any time. But it is not open to criticism because most people who are doing a diligent and what you call a proper analysis of the Quran, they can see that this is not a word of a human being. It talks about the water cycle 1400 years ago. It talks about the embryology of a child in the mother's womb 1400 years ago. There was no science then. We only know it 150 years ago, maybe 200 years ago maximum, if you go. We didn't know all that. This is all from there. There's so many messages there in the Quran where it says the two seas do not meet. Now you see pictures from satellite, the different colored waters, and they touch each other, but they're not mixing with each other. You got the light blue and the dark blue in one. And you have the rivers and the oceans. The oceans have the salty water, which is not fit for drinking because of the high salt content. Our kidneys will fail in about 2 days' time. Whereas the river water is sweet water, which is there for drinking. So all these things are there that tell us that there are certain systems in place to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And the system of passing the message of Allah for the guidance of human beings is necessary. It's necessary to have isma about that. What we call infallibility. If you're not happy with infallibility, talk about being error-free, talk about being mistake-free. Salawatullah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And finally, I'm going to talk about this thing that, Rasulullah was just like us. Just like us. He was just a human being like us. We don't have the character. We don't have the truthfulness. We don't display the trustworthiness. We don't display the generosity. We don't display the patience. We don't have the bravery. And he's still adamantly arguing that I am as good as Rasulullah was. How shameful is that? Where does his argument stand? Nowhere. How can such a person who was an epitome of all kinds of values, of qualities of human beings, be the same as us? But he was just a human being. He was there, He was born, you see, same body as us. Nothing different. But we tell them, no, he had a nuri existence. The haqiqah, or the reality of Rasulullah, is from lights. So if he was light, then why didn't he come as light then? You can handle the sunshine? Can you see the sunshine? If the sun comes in front of you, you'll be running away wherever, you don't know wherever. You'll die. You'll suffer from heat stroke or heart disease or brain hemorrhage or whatever you want to call it. You will be overcome and overwhelmed by the existence of such a being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it palatable enough for us material human beings so that this nuri creation can go in the form of you little humans and tell you some messages from me so that you guys can be guided. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want everybody to recite the kalama because I'm scared and overwhelmed. Allah wants us to recite the kalama because He wants us to use the intellect, work on what the message is, and then say, yes, this is the correct thing. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. There's no pressure in religion. La ikraha fid deen. There's no duress in religion. Nobody's making you believe in certain things. The message is there. You get the message. You understand the message. And acting upon it is up to you. So He is not just like us. Just He's like us. He's like us. Why? How come He's like us? What proof do you have about yourself that you can match with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We don't even have His integrity. We don't even have His, He had a special smell coming from His body. Like you recite the Hadith Qissa every day. When the family members come inside the house, they say, Mom, I smell the fragrance of my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He passed, wherever he passed by, this fragrance was there for at least 2 days. Then people knew that he is here, or he passed by from here. When on the night of Hijrah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went away to Makkah, to Medina from Makkah, and he made Imam Ali alayhi salam sleep in his bed, right? You all know the story? Why did he make Imam Ali alayhi salam sleep in his bed? because people will not be confused. I'll come to that later on. People will not be confused, but people think that it is Rasulullah. Why? Because when Rasulullah used to sleep with his blanket on top of him, a certain light would emanate from him. So people would know even in the darkness that this one is the Rasul sleeping here. This one is the Rasul. So when Imam Ali alayhi salam had the same light as Rasulullah, because Rasulullah said, Ali and me were made from the same noor. So he had the same light emanating from him. So people were confused, were watching for Rasulullah, they were confused that this is the light is coming on, so it must be Rasul sleeping there. And we'll take our opportunity and kill him when we have to. But when they tried it, they saw that it was Ali sleeping there. So the confusion was because they were from the same noor, they were light emanating from there. But if they came in the reality of their light, human beings, material beings would not be able to handle that. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them in a human form for some time so that they can pass on the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us so that we can be guided. And it went on from Imam Ali alayhi salam to Imam Hassan alayhi salam and to Imam Hussain alayhi salam and on to all the Imam alayhi salam. I stop here for tonight. I think we got pretty much there on time now. But I want to talk about what happens when you lose the sense of the reality of a person. You know, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he was saying to people in Makkah, he spent 4 months in Makkah. After leaving from Medina, he spent 4 months in Makkah. And he was saying to people that this is going to be a problem. The appointment of the new caliph has happened and he's talking like this. And he guided them to come with him to go to Kufa, because the Kufa, people writing letters for him to come in. And when he headed on to Kufa, of course, he could not go there because he was stopped in the way. And also he got the message that Muslim ibn Aqil has been killed and the people of Kufa have turned. Now, the people of Kufa, they turned for many reasons. The very strong ones, the biggest supporters, were arrested or killed. That was a fun thing. The weaker ones were threatened and pushed away. Fear. And the rest were bribed. And the many means of political mechanisms to use in order that, you can subdue the Kufans from supporting Imam Hussain alayhi salam. This is what happens when you lose sight of the truth, when you're not strong enough to be with the truth. Then you might be doing namaz, you might be doing fasting, whatever we're doing, all the good things that Islam says. But standing with the truth needs a lot of solid iman. Iman is not how much, mashallah, he prays or fasts. It's about standing steadfast with the truth and being trustworthy. Imam Sadiq al-Islam said there's two sides of the same coin. If you want to check somebody's iman, see how much he is truthful and how much he is trustworthy. He didn't say that you go and check how many times he does the salah. Does he do salatul layl? Does he fast in the entire month of Ramadan? Check how much khums he gives. He didn't say all that stuff. He said check whether he's truthful and whether he's trustworthy. If we are not truthful and trustworthy now, when the time comes, when the crux comes to make a choice, then we will fail. And that is what happened to the people. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he changed his ihram from Hajj to Umrah day before Eid al-Adha, or day before the Hajj was beginning, the day before the day of Arafat. And he left Makkah. But the people were there, no, we're going to try to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imam of the time is present there, but they could not recognize the truth. They were busy saying, no, we'll go to Arafat and we'll pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thus the Imam, who is the representative of Allah, does not know what to do and what not to do. Doesn't know better because he's the biggest alim of his time. He's better than better than all human beings. He knows, but he chose to travel. And he chose to travel to Kufa, where he was waylaid on the way, and he had to stop by in Karbala. And there in Karbala, when he stood there, the water was stopped in his tents on the 7th day. 6 days they stayed in Karbala. There was water available, but from then on, there was no water. No permission to go to the river, which is running right next to their tents, to go and get water. This is the inhumanity that people can stoop to. And remember, these people who were there in the army of Ibn Ziyad or Umar ibn Sa'd, these people had Hafiz al-Quran in them, had Hajis in them, had people who were giving zakat and all. These people were Muslims. Some of them were the sons of the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet they were opposing Imam Hussain al-Islam. Sometimes you oppose the truth because you have got haram means inside you. Either your birth is haram, or you are eating from haram income, or you are eating haram food from halal income. All these things keeps us away from the truth and makes us become like a person who cannot stand the strength of the truth. And because we cannot stand the strength of the truth, we go to the easy path, or which seems like an easy path. We go to the ease of staying in the houses, or I don't want to take any sides. Because we have to take the side of the truth anywhere. It has no choice. We have to stand for justice. Anywhere there's injustice, we have to stand against it. If you can't stop injustice with your hands, with your power, stop it with your words. If you can't stop it with your words, at least hate it from within yourself. That's how important justice is. And Imam Hussain al-Islam was there on the day of Ashura when he was fighting the battle, which he knew will happen. He was taking people from Makkah, not because he needed them to fight for him. If one dua he made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the angels would have come and would have fought for him, no problem at all. But he wanted to take people to see how many are ready to go to Jannah. When you die as a shaheed, as a martyr in the way of religion, in the way of deen, what happens is all your slate is wiped clean from that moment. No questions asked. Once you're shaheed, you're straight away looking at the paradise of heaven. No questioning by the angels in the grave, nothing, all that. Everything is good because you are special category. You are a martyr. And that's what Imam Hussain al-Islam was taking people to Jannah. He was not giving anything worldly, because there were many people in the group who were there who went out with him from Makkah. But on the way, slowly by slowly, people kept leaving him because slowly they got the understanding that we are going to get killed at the end. We are not going to get any booty, any war booty. We're not going to get any position after the war is over. After the war is over, we will not even exist. What will happen to our families, my children, my home, my property, all that stuff? They were thinking all that worldly. But remember, the Imam was there. He knew what he was doing. They did not trust him enough because they were far from the truth. But they did not actually practice the truth in their own life themselves. And that is why we can fall short, even though we know all these details. Like I mentioned, in the army of Umar ibn Sa'd, there were Hafiz al-Quran, there were people who were Hajis, there were people who gave zakat, who were 5-time prayers, all that stuff. But people did not understand who they were fighting because they could not fathom the truth in reality. And when, on the day of Ashura, when the battle happens, when the battle happens, one by one, his Sahaba, his friends are being killed. One by one, they are being killed. And the time of Dhuhr comes. Abu Sumama, who is one of the Sahabi who is fighting with Imam Hussain al-Islam, says to Imam, Ya Imam, it's the time of prayer, it seems, the sun is right at the top. I just have a wish to pray one more prayer behind you. Just one more prayer behind you. And Imam says, yes, you're right. It is the time for prayer. Go and ask permission for them to stop the battle now so that we can pray. They go to seek permission and they come back and permission denied. No, not allowed. So Imam says, okay, I am going to pray. Let's see what happens. Zuhair and Syed stand in front of the Imam. They stand in front of the Imam to shield him from the arrows that are flying in towards the Imam Hussain al-Islam. Imam Hussain does the prayer in the sands of Karbala, and as soon as he finishes, Syed has taken so many arrows on his body that he falls down, because now he's assured that Imam has finished his prayers, and then he falls down because he had the will and the strength, not just bodily strength. He had the mental strength to withstand the arrows that were hitting him and still stand up just for the Imam to finish his prayers. And once the Imam finished his prayers, he fell down because he couldn't, muster up enough strength anymore. So he falls down, his life is about to ebb away, and Zuhair is with him. And Zuhair says, oh, Syed, I would ask you what your will is if I knew that I was going to live. But I am coming with you soon, so I don't know what to ask you. And Syed just points at Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and with his quivering lips, he says, take care of him, protect him as much as you can. And Zuhair says, yes. And Imam looks at his martyred Sahaba and says, I have the Sahaba that not even my father had or my grandfather had. How deeply reliable, how deeply faithful were these people to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So many Sahaba died, knowing they don't want anything. In the night before, when there were doubts being raised by Lady Zainab, and she asked her brother, oh my dear brother, go and check the loyalty of your people to see whether they will fight for you tomorrow. And somebody heard it from them, and the word went around that Bint Ali does not trust us. And Zuhair raised a cry, Ya Zainab Bint Ali, if I am killed 1,000 times and made to live 1,000 times, each time I will never leave Imam Hussain till I am killed and I'm made to come back again. May Allah bless these brave people and these righteous people and give us the tawfiq to understand the reality of our deen. It's not just about rituals, it's about reality sitting inside our heart. May Allah give us the tawfiq and the knowledge and the awareness to practice it. The more we are aware, the more we have chance to practice it. And once we start practicing, inshallah ta'ala, we will be leading the lives of Zuhair and Syed and Abu Mama and all these people. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. That's something. We'll have questions, so don't go. We'll discuss. You raise your hand, we'll discuss with your points. Inshallah. We'll wait. Ya Hussain, 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 Ya Hussain.
जब रिदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया वासी जब रिदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया जब रिदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा देती रही आया आलिम ने कहा और जिंदा ने कहा ये बहन कैद हुई सुनाया बाजी जब रिदा सर से चुनी मैं सदा देती रही सुनाया बाजी हमको पानी न मिले तेरी खुशबू तो रहे तेरे बाजू कटे चाहे मशकी सचे दे ये मगर हो न सका तेरे बाजू है जुदा मुझ मुझ पे है तशनालबी आया जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी धूप में तू था शजर तुझसे आबाद था घर है बरहना मेरा सर क्या नहीं तुझको खबर अलमदार वफा इस बहन को खुदा तुझसे धड़स की बड़ी तू ना आया सर से चढ़ी मैं सदा देती तू ना आया आ गए लुट गए हैं हरम रेत पर जलती हुई हो गया ठंडा आलम फिरसा देने के लिए मुझसे मिलने के लिए आ गए बाबली तुम्हारा मैं सदा देती तुम्हारा जब रिदा सर से चली मैं सदा देती रही आया जब रिदा सर से चली मैं सदा देती रही तो आया अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न रसूलिल्लाह अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न अमीरुल मुमिनीन अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न फातिमतुज़ ज़हरा सय्यदतुन निसाइल आलमीन अस्सलामु अलैका